Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. We are the B team. Welcome in on Jackrabbit Illustrated. Oh, now Ben shows up. Now, we wait for the guy for how long? Because he's frozen.
I was here, and then it crashed and died, and so I had to redo everything.
Boo hiss. Anyways, we're Jackrabbit Illustrated. Thanks for joining us on the Jackrabbit Illustrated Twitter, Facebook, and of course the FCS Fans Nation YouTube, wherever you may be. We really appreciate you joining us today. You might notice slightly different background for me. I'm at some family's house today, so doing this in a unique situation here, but it's working out. We got good Wi-Fi, I think, so it's better than a hotel room by a long shot, which is awesome. As always, Jackrabbit Illustrated is brought to you by our title sponsor, Kubota Dealers of South Dakota, with 10 different locations across the great state of South Dakota. You're always close to a place to get into some orange equipment to take care of your home, ranch, or acreage. They've got everything you may need from side-by-sides to skid steers to equipment, sales, parts, and service, although you don't need a lot of service. I know Matt knows that because them babies just run like a tank, and I'm sure he's getting even more appreciative by the day that he's got his BX Series tractor. So
let's go. It's time to blow some snow.
And we are, of course, if you haven't noticed, joined by the Podfather. I've got to figure out which side of the screen he is from me. The Podfather, man, the myth, the legend. So B Team Mafia, what's up? He decided to come to the big leagues and be on the B team with us.
Like I said, I am here to discuss pocket cheese, chocolate milk, garage time, whatever it is that you guys want to talk about. That's what I'm here for tonight, filling in for Chad. So
I was thinking maybe Brendan dropped one too many F-bombs and you had to come chaperone us for a while.
No, you guys were hard up for help this week, so I was like, man, I better step in. Like, I've never been on the B team before. I think everyone else on the team has.
Never?
I never have. So let's go.
No, Matt never has. We've never been visited by the boss before. It feels like it feels like when your boss is shadowing you at your job. I just want to see what you do in person. No, you don't. That's not why you're
the notes I'm taking tonight, guys. So just pretend I'm not here.
Yeah.
He stands in the back of the class. As always, the B team is brought to you by Culver's of Brookings in Watertown. Tell you what, Culver's is popular wherever I go. We're a better brand of beef, makes a Butterburger better. Culver's, it's delicious. Get yourself a Butterburger, get some cheese curds, get you some fries with that delicious beer cheese sauce. If you're not doing it that way, you're doing it wrong, and I'm judging you for it. Also, a great way to really annoy your friends, bet them on Scoopy tokens, because then it's really difficult for them to pay off the bet, which is better than making it expensive to pay off the bet. So that's my motto.
Yeah, I think they need to bring back Scoopy tokens. I'd buy them just for fun. I would give them as like a Christmas gift, a stocking stuffer.
Right, like if they gave out like little poker chips as Scoopy tokens.
Yeah, well, for sure, I would do that.
I would consider getting enough to try to fill a bathtub and dive into it like Scrooge McDuck. Except it would turn out like Peter Griffin. He dies and just wham.
Yeah.
Anyways,
let's talk a little bit about the Missouri State football game. You were down there. How'd that go?
I was there. It was fantastic. Yeah. I really like the stadium. It's a pretty neat little venue that they've got going on there. Hunter Dustman booted an extra point into the road because if you clear the stadium, you're making the street, baby. But it's got a cool setup. The home side is definitely the old side. I think I said before to you guys, it has a sale barn feel when you're walking on because you walk underneath the concourse. Another cool thing is when you walk from like the south side to the north side of the stadium, you walk through the stadium without being in the stadium because you're walking under the concourse bleachers, but that's not a part of the stadium. There's big ramps to go up to the second deck as you walk under the stadium, but you don't need a ticket. You just walk through and they take tickets at the bottom of the ramps or you come in on the other end.
So it was neat. Did it feel like an FBS stadium though?
It felt like a CUSA stadium. It felt like expensive FCS.
Hey, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because no one's going to be there on Tuesday and Wednesday nights anyway. So
that's true.
Right. And the annoying thing about the stadium is if you want to go from the home side to the away side, you have to exit the stadium and then go around and then re-enter the stadium. And unless you got a super cool security guard like we did, who just let us walk in by where the Jack's trailer is, you got to go all the way from the only entrance on the home stadium is on the south. And then the only one they were supposed to take tickets at was on the north side of the away bleachers. So it was really a pain. But we got let in, so it was fine. The coolest thing about that stadium is on the home side bleachers, they got rid of their track that used to be there, and they lowered the field, and so they brought the bleachers down. And instead of having them, 5-10 feet above field level, like your normal stadium, they run down to field level. Like row 1 is the same height as the benches that the players are sitting on. And there's not even a wall in the way. It's like those big, like bike park, thick railing that goes there with open. And that's all there is. It's like you feel like you're on the field, which is super cool.
Doesn't that provide some bad sight lines though?
I think if we'd have stayed there in the third or fourth row, it'd be okay. I don't think row 1 would be ideal for good sight lines, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, Jerry World has suites down there, which is a bad choice in itself. But no, it was cool. Definitely very very CUSA atmosphere. It was a kind of interesting thing. Actually, they have a really bumping student tailgate, which was wild. It's just packed on the north side of the stadium. And then none of them go to the game, so apparently they hang out with the Yotes.
I've been thinking about that because USD fans complain about their students doing that. I think back to when we were students and how much we all complained when they changed the tailgating rules.
Right.
And you had to go in 30 minutes before. Remember, you used to have Stig on the scoreboard, hey, it's time to come into the stadium.
Yes.
And how mad we were we couldn't run out there and get halftime beers anymore, that kind of stuff. And now no one even thinks about that. It sucks for a couple of years as you adjust to it, but no one really complains that much anymore about having to go in 30 minutes early, not being able to go get those halftime beers. Some of these schools just need to bite the bullet and do it,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And we would be remiss if we don't say happy Thanksgiving to everyone joining us the night before Thanksgiving. Thanks everybody for jumping in. No, you're dead on about that though, Matt. I've thought about that many times when they talk about places that everybody stays in the tailgate. It's well, maybe that making people go in for the tailgate rule that we always complained about incessantly isn't the worst idea anymore. So yeah, that was a cool deal. But yeah, no, I mean, I don't know how much we're going to go over the game or if we want to dive into the bracket, because I showed up late because I'm not responsible and capable of planning. So I got out here late. So
go ahead, man.
Were there more SDSU fans there? Jimmy said that during his show, I thought.
Pretty close. I mean, it wasn't far off. There was a healthy amount of SDSU fans there. A couple comments, I guess, on the game day atmosphere. They don't believe in letting the band play, and you don't need crowd noise if you got loud enough speakers. Holy Hannah. That was worse than what they do in the Dakota Dome. It was worse. It was unconscionable. There's my $5 word for the day. That was
wow.
Yeah, that's a big one. So you buckle up. It's Thanksgiving. I'm getting wild.
That was unexpected, man.
Yeah. I gotta have my good. I gotta bring my good words out. The boss is on the show, so.
Love it. No, I just wanted to. I mean, we don't have to go real deep into it, but I wanted to talk about how I think it's good to see the offense hit its stride. I think that we're gelling at the right time. We're playing well at the right time. It seems like the offensive coordinators are starting to find a rhythm, starting to find some plays that they can rely on some third downs. I think that was some frustration that we had earlier in the season, that we just weren't converting third downs, and then we get off the field, and we're seeing the offense stay on the field more. it would be nice to see some more consistent and again, we scored 45 points, so I shouldn't complain too much. But this, as I always
score
do,
on every drive.
No. I'm saying I want to see a little more early down success because we did have quite a few third and longs. Where it'd be nice to get a little third and a little more manageable at times, so we didn't have to hit on those 10, 12-yard plays on third down. But I think we're headed in the right direction, and I think that the NDSU game wasn't that long ago, but it feels like the offense is night and day from what it was when we played up in Fargo. Doesn't it feel that way?
Yeah.
It does. It absolutely does.
Yeah, and I think that, I think it's a combination of everything. I think it's the coordinators are finding their stride. I think Mark is getting a better relationship with the receivers, getting used to their route running, when they're going to make their breaks, where they're going to be. And, the tight ends are growing up. We're starting to see them a little bit. Even Prejean. I mean, he was getting in the action a little bit, and we just haven't seen a whole lot of him. And so, I think that, like I said, I think that the offense is gelling at the right time, which is really, really good to see. I've been raving about him on every podcast we've done, but Angel Johnson, like some of the moves that he was making on offense were unreal. There was that one play where there were like 5 Missouri State guys around him, and he was just like a little jitterbug, and they just couldn't catch him. And it's just like, man, some of his quick twitch moves are starting to be really impressive. And then you add his speed on top of that, and good luck. I mean, he's just looking really, really good.
Mm-hmm. When are you going to propose to Angel?
What's that? Proposed? I don't know. I've got a pretty bad fan crush on him right now.
After Alex proposes to Tim Rosario, so
there you go.
You guys can have the ceremony together.
Share the expense. Perfect. Yeah. And with that, Amar and Angel are such different types of runners.
Oh yeah.
And even Voorhees, like the three of them are so different. And it's unique, I think, to have such different styles and that the offense still functions at such a high level for all three of them in there. And I think that speaks a lot to the 605 Hogs and their run blocking this season. That's really gone so well. But man, just the change of pace. You look at how Amar approaches it, and he's so patient with his cut. And then Angel gets that one cut, and he's in 5th gear. Like, bam. Yeah. Like that has to be hard as a defender to make kind of that speed adjustments. And then you have Voorhees who wants to just run through your face mask. So, yeah.
Well, and I remember at the beginning of the year, the concern was, well, we got 2 similar backs in the backfield with Angel and Amar. And as the seasons progress, it's like, oh, they're not the same. They're not the same at all. There's a visible difference between those guys when they run and their styles of running.
100%. The other thing, it was good to see Wildy have another good game. They definitely found ways to get him the ball. Love to see that. He's just such a dynamic playmaker. I mean, basically, you just got to find ways to get the ball in his hands in space and let him do what he does. And whether it was a product of Missouri State, their defensive backs not being able to cover him as much, but he's looking really, really good, and I think he's grown a lot too. I mean, we forget how young he is, and how he's in his 2nd year and he's still progressing and learning, and so I think we're seeing some of that later in the season here after a little bit of a mid-season lull. So that's good to see. Obviously, the defense just lights out. The positions they were getting put in, and especially after that botched kickoff, and still forcing a field goal in that position, what other defense does that? And it's unreal how good they are. And the other thing about the botched kickoff return was number one, it was awesome to see the defense stand up. Number two, it was really good to see the offense go in and have it was a less than 2-minute touchdown drive, and just to see them march down the field and squeeze that touchdown in before half gives you a lot of confidence, I think, in the way the offense is looking heading into the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
On the defense, it's wild. Speaking of wild, the Missouri State PA announcer was really committed to calling Wildy wild. That was it was consistent. The disrespect by Zach McKinnell and Tim Rosario. They went through and they did a fantasy draft of defensive players, and they only picked 2 SDSU players. No, I'm kidding. he's laughing because they made it. They could only pick 1 player per team for each guy, so they could only pick 2 guys. They really do. I mean, like the linebacking core. You got Frankel on the Buchanan list. I mean, it's being greedy, but man, it feels like Adam Bach's so underappreciated with what he's been doing and what he does, and it's just wild. The whole defense as a whole is so good that it's hard for guys to stand out, which is crazy to me. And then like to what I was ribbing Zach and Tim there. They both picked defensive backs because the secondary is so good, but we're better at run defense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I mean, we've joked about like the no-name defense in the past, but really, with the way I think it is a no-name defense this year too, because there's so many guys that are making plays, and the stats get so spread out that one guy doesn't get singled out as much. And honestly, the offense is kind of like that too a little bit. When we're cycling in 3 backs, sometimes 4 now with Maxwell Woods, and then Chase Mason in there running the ball too. It's just you spread the ball around so much, and nobody piles up stats. And it's the same thing with Mark. It's like he had a good year. If you look at his stats, you think he had a down year. But we were just running the ball so well. It's like, well, we're just going to run it down your throat. We're not going to risk throwing the ball. And so, we didn't need Mark to put up, 3,000 yards or whatever. It's, do I think he could have done it? Yeah. Like if we were a team that gave up a bunch of points and, had to come from behind, and we would have been throwing the ball over the yard, and he would have racked up yards easy. But that's not what we asked him to do. He's doing what we asked him to do, win games. That's what he does. And so, I mean, will he be in consideration for the Peyton? No. There's guys that have way more stats than he does, but he's a winner. I would much rather have a winner and a leader like Mark is than a guy that can pad the stats and maybe just doesn't win as often because he's throwing interceptions or not leading his team as much. So I'll take Mark all day.
Hey, Zach. Zach Kendall says Tucker Large is a guy I'll stand on the table for. He's the best safety in the nation with healthy. I 100% agree. I'm just going to, when we're in Frisco, I'm going to try to get you to stand on the table and talk about that in one of the bars.
Yes.
But seriously, kind of the whole theme, right, of this, and Matt Zimmer put an article out about this today. And there's more Zim news and John Gaskin news as well, which is cool.
That's exciting.
But I'll get to that in a second. But he put out an article. It really feels like somehow this Jacks team's kind of getting slept on. Mm-hmm. And I think some of it is the way the season's flowed, like for the last, even on Zim's podcast with John Gaskins, it's been heavy USD talk for the last 3 weeks because they've had, this NDSU game coming up. It was understandable. They're not, they talk way more SDSU on there than they do USD. I'm not saying that, but just in coverage and national talk and everything else, SDSU, just because of who we've been playing a little bit, just casually winning every game by 40 points, and not getting big ranked matchups. And even if it is a ranked matchup, it was overshadowed or just expected to win, whatever. They're kind of overlooked right now a little bit. Like it's everybody recognizes they're really good, but nobody's talking about them. They're talking about how's USD going to do? How's Montana State's so good? NDSU's got Cam Miller, and SDSU's just kind of there. And I get this sense from the team, just from what I've heard about, like at the watch party or the selection show party and these other things, that and I'm not comparing them to saying they're a bunch of women here. I'm saying they have this, when you walk out of the room and your wife's like, oh, you're doing that. And then you walk out and it's coming. Like, you don't know, we're too stupid to notice, and it's coming when you come back home and you're going to pay for it. I just got that vibe from like, we're the 3 seed. Okay. All right. Yeah. Oh, you're talking about USD all the time.
Yeah, and I think it's a product of, just how good and consistent this team's been over the past 3 years now, and it's just more of an expectation. It's not like,
Yes.
wow, they're doing great. It's just like, oh yeah, we figured they would be they'd be a top 4 seed, and so I think it's more that we're meeting expectations, and then I think it goes to back to the fact that everything's so balanced. You don't have, like last year, Marquette is Walter Payton year, and we had these, crazy NFL talents, like Isaiah Davis and the Yankees and McCormick and Greenfield and, Hines, and, you had all these big names and all these flashy, and this team just isn't that, but they're still really, really good. And it's just, I think it's just that difference of like, essentially they're meeting expectations. So nobody's talking about them in a bad way, but they're also not like, super flashy. And so nobody's talking about them that way either. So,
yeah. And I just want to, this was in Rants and Raves. It's the 14 touchdown thing, right? We've surrendered 14 touchdowns on the season.
Right.
8 of them came in the first 2 weeks. That means 6 touchdowns allowed the last 10 weeks. That's just insane. Like that level of consistency week in and week out from the defense is so hard to beat. It's just unmatched.
And that's facing an NDSU and USD offense that are two of the top point per game offenses in the country.
And Missouri State.
In back-to-back weeks, by the way. I don't think that gets enough credit, because even when people talk about, the trifecta of doom, as I've been calling it, with the 3 teams that beat each other, even when they talk about that, it's always, well, USD should have won that game in Brookings. Nobody, besides like Jamie Williams on FCS Fans Nation, I haven't heard many people bring up like, oh, SDSU really could have and should have won in how close that was up in Fargo. That doesn't get mentioned. True. It's just, oh, SDSU lost in Fargo. And all this stuff culminating, as a Jacks fan, I love, because if there's one thing this team does, they have their antennas up for this sort of stuff. They do. And they don't have their antennas up for like reading themselves in the paper and the news clippings, but they have their antennas up and really take kind of nonchalant stuff personally, going all the way back to poor Stone Labanowitz and the big fish thing, all the way through to now. It's crazy. It's I think playoff mode's going to hit. We used to talk about that. They used to talk about that with NDSU, how they hit that playoff gear. I think this team's got a big playoff gear that's going to be getting hit this playoffs, and it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think that, on a normal year, I think that, we see the FCS playoffs be picked, and you're like, oh, man, we got to go to Fargo. But this year it feels like, man, I'm excited to go to Fargo, like to go get revenge on them. And I think that's a sense that us as fans have, because I think we know that we can win up there. And I get the sense that the team probably feels that way too. I think Jimmy mentioned something about it. So it's an exciting challenge, and it's just cool to see, overall where the program is. Yeah. What you glossed over the Zim and Gaskins news?
Yeah. Matt, do you want to talk about it, or do you want me to talk about it?
Yeah. So you can talk about it, because you're the one that brought it up, but this is exciting for sure.
Right. This is exciting for Sioux Falls. The vibe I got, and I haven't verified this with Matt Zimmer or anything, I probably should have. And I thought about it, but I got busy during the day with work stuff. Damn, work getting in the way. But John Gaskins announced on the Nobody's Listening Anyway podcast with Matt Zimmer and himself that he is going to be starting to do a daily South Dakota sports talk show. It'll be on SiouxFallsLive.com, and then it'll be on their local TV station out of Sioux Falls. It's KSFL or something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
And one of the forum's local station that they're getting. And it feels to me like they're looking for him to be kind of the hot mic with Dom Izzo for their Sioux Falls Live, which is awesome. That's something we've maybe silently complained about for a while. Stop forcing Dom Izzo's show down our throats. And that's not because we don't like Dom Izzo. He does a fantastic job, but he naturally does NDSU stuff. And it gave the feeling that, God, they're trying to force NDSU stuff on the Sioux Falls market, and it's getting annoying. So we're really excited. That's really cool news for South Dakota in general. I know back when Forum was getting started down here and Sioux Falls Live was starting and everything, talking to some people down in Frisco, they said that they were going to want to provide similar coverage and everything that they do up in Fargo. And I was starting to fall out of the belief that was going to happen because it's just taking so much time. But they said on there, this is still in the infancy of everything, but it really feels like they're starting to build a similar thing down here, which is awesome for Jacks fans because we're going to get a ton of coverage that way.
Yeah, that's really cool. We'll just we'll have to beat the Nebraska out of him eventually. We'll keep calling into his show enough until he stops talking about Nebraska. Because I like his coverage. I like the way he thinks and talks about things. But man, he just needs to stop comparing everything to Nebraska. That's for sure.
Well, remember last year in Frisco for our Super Live, our Mega Live or whatever, I brought up the idea that every time John, when he brings up Nebraska, Zim has to finish his drink. Like no matter where it's at, and I had to laugh because he did it. Like in his first sentence, he brought up Nebraska in this week's podcast. So,
I didn't listen to it. That's funny.
So he would have just had to slam it back right then. So yeah,
we'll have to get Canary season tickets and harass him at every Canary's home game about it until he stops.
Right, guys. Can I do a couple cleanup things from the comments too?
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're the boss. Of course you can.
All right. So Ron asked about signing day. Signing day is next week, December 4th. We will not do our show. We always wait until the second signing period to do our live show. We have recruiting coordinator come on and give a full recap of everyone that we signed, both from December and February, whatever it is. And then, Kevin, you asked about the portal. Yes, we had a reserve offensive lineman hop in the portal today. That's our fifth one. At this point, we have Dawson Rudd, offensive line, Brody Gormley, tight end, Cullen McShane, linebacker, and Jalen Lee was today's. The only one that hasn't announced he's in the portal, but he's no longer on the roster, is Miles Taylor, the cornerback. So that's 5 known that we have right now. And I'm guessing, reading between the lines, and with the timing of it all, I'm guessing Jalen Lee wasn't on the travel roster. And that's why he's the playoff travel roster, just because it's limited on who they can all take. With the freshmen having expanded, play now, they can play unlimited in the playoffs. I'm guessing he was bypassed by a couple of those cats. So that's just, I don't know that for sure, but that's my reading between the lines on it. So thanks. I'm done.
This is why you're the podfather. Now you're done with that. It's a good spot to get in Cubby Sports Bar Grill, Brookings, South Dakota, and down. I don't know how I even said that. Dakota. I don't think I could say that. That's awful. I don't know what the hell that was. Cubby Sports Bar and Grill, Brookings, South Dakota, in downtown Brookings, the best sports bar in the state of South Dakota, especially if you want to get your best Jackrabbit viewing experience possible. They've got roughly 30,000 TVs. That's an unscientific number, but I'm pretty sure it's accurate. Plus, they've got a ton of great brews and awesome burgers, food. The nachos, everybody knows the nachos. We're dying for J.I. Italian nachos to come back. I might have to kidnap somebody to make it happen, but we're going to make it happen.
It's funny that you mentioned that, Brendan, because that's my announcement.
No.
Starting December 2nd.
You shut the front door.
Gus Theodosopoulos has let me know that they are bringing back the Italian nachos at Cubby Sports Bar and Grill.
Yes, let's go. Oh, I got sweaty pits in that.
This is what joy looks like. This is joy here.
Oh, I'm so happy. Sorry, we cut you off. What are the dates? The time frame?
December 2nd through December 31st. So
is he going to call him? Is he going to call him J Italian nachos on the menu?
I don't think so, but you should order them like that still.
If we got a menu item named after us, I'd probably pass out. That'd be insane. I would fall out of the bar stool. Be like, is he having a seizure? No, he's fine. He'll get over it. No, that is awesome. And because I blacked out when you were talking about that. That's coming back during that time frame? And are they donating the proceeds again?
I do not know that. We didn't discuss, and I didn't discuss that.
Okay, I should ask that.
They did the event there. So
right, they did do the Cubbies event there.
Yep.
And speaking of donations, BT Mafia, Mark is up to $25,000 raised to fight children's cancer. Excellent work. I know all of you are against childhood cancer instead of being like the communists down south who apparently are for it and only have raised $4,000 because they're lame. So way to go, BT Mafia. That is an awesome number. We've still got the rest of the playoffs to pump it up even more. Really blow that lead open. He's up by $15,000 on Bauman. So let's see, catch up quick on that backdoorus, you dirty, rotten bugger. I say that. He was a great guy. He was a great guy when we met him down in Frisco. He really was.
And his dad was
I'm just
cool
teasing.
Too, right?
Yeah, thanks, Rev. Yeah, I just got done with like a 2-hour drive, and I'm just a sweaty person. I just, God, there's a comedian, and I can't think of his name. He's my wife's favorite. And he goes, I hit 35, and I'm just moist all the time. Just damp. That's the way it is.
I love it. I just put in my calendar Italian nachos December 2nd because I'll be in Brookings because there's a men's basketball game that night. So that's fun.
Yes.
Heck yeah.
Let's go, baby.
That's good. I was so excited to tell you guys this because I've been working with Gus on it a little bit.
I'm giddy about this.
Yeah, I knew I was coming on with you guys tonight, and I was like, God, I have to have this. So
did he say why is he doing it? Like just randomly, or did he get prompted?
I don't know. Like we asked. So
we need to ask every month. We need to ask all the time. That's my favorite thing.
Well, that's why I didn't know if like any one of us like specifically tweeted.
I brought it up to him. Oh,
you
guys have been mentioning it a little bit on your show.
Witness. Witness.
You're the best boss ever, man.
I try to take care of you guys.
Boss ever. Witness the power of the Podfather.
Yeah.
He told him he was going to sick BT Mafia on him.
No.
Yeah.
I figured I would
give me some Italian nachos. Make you an offer you can't refuse.
I did figure I would preemptively get ahead of it this year instead of you guys being like, I'm just going to put Italian nachos on their menu.
We didn't say it that way. No, we playfully told people to harass them on social media, and so they did it. That's different.
Okay.
Mildly strong-armed them via Twitter.
Yeah, that's right. We just said everybody tag them until they break to our will, and it works. So
that's funny.
I'd be nice and ask.
Daryl asks, any news or truth to a 5-star tight end committing? I have not heard this, but Chris Myers is continuing to post a lot of come be special at tight end U or things like that. There's something in the works with another high caliber tight end. I don't know for sure. The kid out of the cities they have coming is more of like an H-back Mike Morgan type. And they have the very tall kid from Madison coming who played quarterback, wide receiver, and is a very good basketball player, Ben Brooks, something like that.
I think that's right.
So I don't know. I think there may be one more tight end coming, but we'll see. I really don't know. Something's going on though.
Yeah.
No, Kevin, we're not doing JIA with Matt here. I'd have to censor most of it.
Yeah, we'd have to. We'd really get our pay cut after that one. As Jim says, get your Podfather T-shirt. Show your appreciation for him getting J Italian nachos back on the menu, and get your Podfather shirt. I've told everybody where Matt works to get the Podfather T-shirt, and they wouldn't do it. So
good. Thank you, staff team.
So I'm gonna buy them for them, and they're all gonna show up wearing it one day.
Which I didn't even know that we had one available for purchase.
I've said it like 7 times,
and he tweets it out at
and
least
I
once
tweet
a
it
time.
regularly. Way to show that you care.
Most of the time, your pictures don't come through because we've got androids in our chat.
I blame Chad.
I don't have
because
that
it's
issue.
easy.
I have an iPhone. Why don't I have that issue?
I don't know. There it is. God, it's glorious. My goodness.
Isn't it beautiful? It's cool. It's awesome.
It's
yeah, I set that up with our T-shirt lady. It's sick.
That is amazing.
Isn't it? I mean, you could own one of these.
Look at his face on there.
Oh my god,
it's gorgeous. I mean, I can't think of anything better.
That is great.
That's right. We don't need to go into backdoor covers.
No.
There was a family event. We're not going to do that. Anyways, we got to talk about the bracket.
We do
with your family. Yeah, we got to talk about bracket.
We got to talk about the bracket.
B-team shenanigans.
Speaking of people not. Speaking of Ben not paying attention to what I say, I swear to God, sometimes it's because of the seeds. That's like the big conversation, right? How the seeds played out, how they went 2, 3, 4, right? And I swear to God, there's times where I feel like everyone in the world listens to our podcast, and then there's times I feel like nobody's listened at all. Because myself and Alex, for sure, probably Ben, I think Ben was too, have been saying for at least 2 weeks that was how the seeds are going to work out.
Yeah.
Because if you looked at the resumes, that's how it was going to play out. Now, don't get me wrong. I get the frustration with the seeds. I do. I went back and I looked in, I think since like 2004, since the transition, SDSU's played in Fargo like 15 times. We've had like 4 or 5 times we played back to back there, either in the same season or between 2 seasons, which is nuts. It's so out of whack because of playoffs and everything else. So I understand in the visceral frustration. I was annoyed. I knew it was coming, and I was annoyed the day that it came out because it's like, holy crap, you had Incarnate Word as the 6th seed. We're the only team in the bracket to have beaten 2 of the top 6 teams. Mm-hmm. And, we're going to do that. And I was further annoyed because Matt Larson, one of the very few quotes I found from him about the seeds, and how the seeding of the Dakota schools went specifically, he said, well, I think when it comes to SDSU and NDSU, the head-to-head really weighed in NDSU's favor. And it's like, well, hold on a minute.
Yeah.
The head-to-head canceled out between the 3 of them. That's a conversation of everyone who knows what they're talking about, said about the committee is the head-to-head shouldn't matter between those 3 teams because they're even. So now what you're saying is, so you went and said the head-to-head didn't matter for USD, so you pushed them to 4 because you said resumes, and then after you eliminated them, then you went and reset the rules. Well, what are we doing? So that's annoying. But in the end, I'm perfectly happy with it's fine. It's fine the way they did it. No one can look me in the eye and say that Matt Larson didn't have any effect on it. I just don't believe that. I'm not naive enough to believe that. And it's not a negative thing about him. That's human nature. That's reality. It's fine. That's the reality of the situation. It's not some impeachment of Matt Larson's character if he did have some influence on it. And you can't tell me he doesn't. It's difficult to say he doesn't when then the year that, 2 years ago, UND got screwed out of hosting when they bid like 3 times the amount Weber did. Matt Larson was also on that committee. Like it's just a little suspicious. And I'm not saying they didn't make the right choice, but don't tell me that. Don't piss on me and tell me it's raining. All right. But
yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the decision wasn't egregious. Like you can make a case for it at least, and I think that's at least we've got that if it was like clear as day, then I would have obviously been angry if they would have been seated ahead of us. But going into that after that last Saturday, I was like, I wouldn't be surprised by any combination of 2, 3, 4. I think it fell on what we thought the most likely situation was going to be. But yeah, whether he ultimately has too much influence, I don't know about that.
And let's be honest, it doesn't matter in the end. The D2 thing absolutely was a factor, and it should have been. It should have been. Whether it's SCSU's fault or not, you can't set the rules for, well, you weren't able to because you got screwed by this team backing out. Well, the other team still played more D1 games than you. You can't get an artificial leg up just because. That the reason you have these set this way and they end up being unfair sometimes is to help take bias out of it for the committee to make it more set in stone and standard rules to follow. So I'm totally fine with that. That makes a lot of sense to me.
And I've seen a lot of the arguments like, well, Augustana is better than a lot of FCS teams anyway. And that's true, but they're still classified D2, and that's what you have to go by. You can't go by, well, they're really good. They're a really good D2 team. Well, it doesn't matter.
Because it becomes subjective at that point. You want to take subjectivity out of it. Otherwise, we end up with weird decisions by the committee as it is. Imagine if they just got to decide how they felt instead of having these guidelines for resumes and stuff. That would be a disaster.
Yeah. Well, let's get into the bracket a little bit here. If you haven't watched the A-Team podcast, they had Kevin Marshall on, and he did an amazing job of really diving into each of the matchups, each of the teams, where they got placed and everything. So definitely go listen to that. But what we'll do now is I think we'll give our thoughts on how we think it's going to go. Because I think there's been enough talk about, unless you have, we talked about kind of the 2, 3, 4. Do you have any other comments on seeds? I think the general thought is that Incarnate Word probably is a little too high.
I think Incarnate Word's over. I think Incarnate Word's overseeded. I think they should have been 8. I guess I get the rationale, but I think they should have been 8 for sure.
And then what did you have just moved everybody up from there?
I would have bumped everybody up, I think, from there. I think Mercer deserved to be the 6 over Incarnate Word. I mean, they have the same record, but they played in a better conference. And so I think, and they had more ranked wins and everything else. But I almost wonder if part of this is the committee trying to reward Incarnate Word for going out and scheduling a good out of conference and scheduling a tough out of conference. So I wonder, and I'm okay with that.
That's quite the reward for sending them back to Brookings, though.
Right. But you get the 6th seed. It should be theoretically easier. I think Idaho is the one who got really hosed because of all of it having to, and if so facto, Montana State, interestingly enough, I think ended up with a harder run than NDSU has because of it. Because if I'm Montana State, I don't know if I want to face a healthier Idaho if I can avoid it after they've already faced us once this season. We've seen those results flip on their heads before. But yeah, I don't know. Other than that, I think that there's no real huge complaints with this bracket. I don't think, outside of Idaho. If I'm Idaho, I'm pissed. But otherwise, I think the bracket's fine.
Yeah. Let's do it this way. So we'll look at the first round games. Do you see any upsets in this top quadrant here with UT Martin, New Hampshire, and Lehigh, Richmond?
I'm gonna have to chat it and get close to my screen.
I can zoom in a little further.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I can see UT Martin beating New Hampshire pretty easily. I don't think Lehigh will win in the first round, but I wouldn't fall out of my chair if they did. This bracket set up with the 16 seeds, I think there's going to be some really fun games.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love it.
But I could see an upset in both of them. I would consider. I'm interested to see what the line is when we get to Scared Money Don't Make Money on UT Martin, New Hampshire, because I like that matchup for UT Martin, I think.
So UT Martin's actually favored on the road by 1.5 in that one.
See, I'm not stupid.
I'd pick UT Martin, like not even knowing that. Like my pick was
Yeah.
UT Martin on that one. So
Yep.
Yeah, I'll be on the fence on that one. I'll try to figure out over some turkey tomorrow which one I'm going to pick on Scared Money Don't Make Money, which will be on Friday night at 8:30 if you're looking to see what our picks are against the spread for all these. Tonight we're just talking just straight up money line, who's going to win the game. For bracket purposes, I'll take New Hampshire. I think they pull it off at home.
I'll take UT Martin.
We agree that Richmond is probably most likely going to win that one, although they're only favored by 8.5 at home. So
I think
that's not as big of a spread as I thought it would have been.
That's probably about where I would have put it. I'm not a huge believer in Richmond, and I can't talk too confidently on Richmond because I will be damned if I give my money to Flow Sports for anything. So I haven't watched an NCAA game. So no, maybe they're rock stars, but with their insular scheduling, I could see it being a tighter game, but I think Richmond wins either way.
Flo almost got some money out of me. I wanted to watch the basketball team down in the Cayman, but I just listened to it instead. Which we went and beat Missouri State again in basketball.
Yes, I saw that.
Kind of and almost beat Boise State. That was a really good game, and that Boise State's a really good team. So men's basketball team's playing really well.
The women are 2-0 against the Big Ten, including a ranked win over Oregon now, which is sick. That
is awesome.
They've beat the 21st ranked team in the nation twice this season now.
Yeah, and they should have beat Duke too. That was a fun game, but we digress. The next quadrant here, first round games, we've got SEMO hosting against Illinois State. As you probably heard at this point,
yes.
Illinois State is hosting their high school football championship because they are hard up for money, I'm guessing. And it was probably too much money to pass up. So SEMO gets to host. Just give me an idea. The line in this one, again, a really good close spread. Illinois State's favored on the road by 2. And I think I'll take Illinois State in this one. SEMO, it was, they were pretty highly ranked, but I think they've kind of stumbled and fell from grace. And so in Illinois State, I think they're a quietly good team. I think, in my opinion, I think they're going to win, and I think they're going to give UC Davis a run for their money.
There's the potential that DeLorient snaps out of it and has a big game and beats Illinois State. I mean, we've seen what Missouri State did to Illinois State, and Illinois State hasn't been the most impressive team in the Valley, that's for sure. I think I'll take Illinois State should win, but I just got a funny feeling about this. With it being on the road, I'm going to take SEMO to win this one. SEMO's feeling so bad.
Really?
I can't even lift them up.
I'm intrigued by that because it seems like SEMO's just playing awful ball right now.
They have been playing awful. It's just a gut feeling. There's no logic behind it.
Interesting. I'll take the Redbirds in that one, even though I don't think they're a good team either, though, Ben. I just think SEMO's playing that poorly.
Yeah, it's hard to tell because, I mean, Illinois State didn't play well against Missouri State or NDSU. They beat everybody else other than their FBS game. But as we know, the bottom half of the Valley, the bottom 2/3 of the Valley wasn't good this year. And so, saying that you won all your other conference games just doesn't mean much this year in the Valley. And so it'll be interesting to see how good they really are. But I've got confidence in them. Obviously, I don't think we need to spend too much time on Drake and Tarleton State. And it's funny how Joe and Sean cannot pronounce Tarleton, even though they've been told how to pronounce it, and they still struggle.
Must be an East Coast thing. I don't know.
Yeah, it must be. Yeah.
But I mean, is anybody picking Drake in this one?
I am. No, I'm kidding. It's going to be Tarleton. Although I would take special glee out of Tarleton losing because I still have a vendetta against them for backing out last year.
Yeah,
true.
Sorry,
cowards.
The Tarleton's favored by 21 in this one. This is the biggest spread of the first round. So,
Wow.
yeah, expect that to go like how we think it will. Tennessee State, Montana. Montana's favored by 15 at home, which I thought was pretty large.
Ooh.
That one's going to be an interesting pick against the spread. I'll take Montana to win at home. I think they're just going to be too much for Tennessee State.
Well, what is a fast way to get blown out on the road in the playoffs? Big special teams plays. Montana has Junior Bergen, and a fun little stat I picked up from Tim Rosario and Zach McKinnell on the Blue Bloods podcast. Tennessee State has like the 141st ranked special teams unit by PFF, and I'm not a PFF guy. But if you're that low, you're pretty bad, and you're facing Junior Bergen. That's not a good recipe for success. I like what Tennessee State's done. I like what Eddie George, the path he has on him. I think Montana rolls in this one. I think Junior Bergen houses a couple.
I'm taking Montana. Yeah, I just think too much. Tennessee State kind of showed who they are in a hostile environment earlier this season in Fargo.
Yeah,
and it's going to be too much. Montana.
Unless Ayat runs out instead of Fife, then it's like a 10-point win for me.
That would be wild if they make that change.
Yeah.
You said 141st. That's can't be. There's only 123 FCS teams.
Maybe 121st. It's terrible. It's really, really bad.
That's how bad they are. 140.
You're missing the point. Yeah, that's how bad they are. They actually picked a couple D2 schools. Yeah, there's 129 FCS. I know there's 129 FCS schools, but I don't know. That was the number I clung to. Zach, straighten me out in the comments if you can. But it was bad. It was really bad.
All right. Now we've got Eastern Kentucky going to Villanova. Villanova's favored by 9.5 at home in this one. I think I'll take Villanova to win. I trust them to take care of Eastern Kentucky. Brennan, you were against that one?
Give me the Colonels. Give me Eastern KFC, baby. They've been playing pretty stout of late. Nova, I mean, yeah, they beat Delaware, but they always beat Delaware. Beyond that, Nova has been beyond unimpressive. I have no respect for the CAA. They're an embarrassment to the sport of college football with how they've rigged their schedule so that they could get as many teams in the bracket as they deserve. And I pray to God that Villanova and all their other teams get pants besides Rhode Island, because I kind of like Rhode Island besides Joe and Sean. I like their uniforms, but so yeah. Give me the Colonels to pull the upset.
Yep, I'm taking the EKU too. Kevin talked me into it on Sunday. So, yep.
Boom. Yeah, see, Kevin Marshall, man, and if Villanova and a couple other CAA teams get upset in the first round, oh my God, Kevin is going to be unbearable on Twitter.
Unbearable.
Oh my God, I'm gonna call whatever bar he's at and buy like 6 rounds of SoCo for him and just sit back and watch the fireworks.
Yeah, Saturday would be entertaining. All right, last quadrant here for the first round. We've got Central Connecticut State going to Rhode Island, and Rhode Island is favored by 14.5 in this one. Easy pick for me, Rhode Island.
Yeah, Rams roll. CCSU. If it was Duquesne, then if Duquesne didn't pee on their legs, then this could have been interesting perhaps, but Rhodey's going to roll in this one against CCSU.
Yep. If you missed it, Kevin said this team was as worthless as a piece of gum on the bottom of your boot heel. So I am taking Rhode Island as well. So, yeah.
I like it. Last game is another interesting one. We have Northern Arizona, who's favored on the road by 2.5 at Abilene Christian. I will take Northern Arizona in this one. I think that they're a dangerous team, and Abilene Christian's been kind of stumbling a little bit. It'll be a tough road game, but I'll go with Northern Arizona.
Abilene Christian has stumbled very recently, but overall, the last half of the season, they did have some good wins beating Tarleton, things like that. Northern Arizona doesn't really have any good wins. Mm-hmm. that what I would rank above any other of the UAC wins that Abilene Christian has. So I'm going to take ACU at home. I'm going to take them to win outright.
Yep, I'm taking ACU as well. Northern Arizona, for everything that Brendan said there, they just haven't played anyone. Whereas Abilene Christian is just a little more battle tested. Yep.
Perfect. Let's roll back up to the top quadrant here.
Ben, have you been writing these down, or do I have to try to remember who I picked?
Nah, I'll just listen back.
Okay.
I'll listen back and I'll track them all.
I'm on a phone. I can't really keep. Oh, that'll look at the. See, that's why he's the Podfather.
Yeah. We should just fill out a bracket. All the JI people. We should have a JI bracket challenge or something.
We should. Are the big boys doing one this year?
They are. Yeah. They're doing theirs, but I mean, we can do our own. You have to pay 99 cents to do theirs, which is, I mean, exorbitantly expensive.
I mean, geez. The price of bread these days. Yeah.
In the top quadrant here, do we think there's going to be any surprises with Montana State or Idaho?
I don't think so, no.
Nah.
Nope. Okay. Any surprises with UC Davis or USD?
USD is going to lose. No, I'm just kidding. I'm hoping USD either wins by 80 to punish Tarleton for skipping out on us last year, or USD loses so I can giggle like a small child. No, there's not going to be any surprises in this one, I don't think.
I don't think so either. I mean, I'm tempted on Illinois State, but I do like UC Davis. I think they'll travel okay.
Mm-hmm.
But they shouldn't have to travel. Excuse me. Illinois State has to go out there. And
where are they going? Where's Davis going to go?
Nope. My bad. Yep.
Any surprises with SDSU or UIW?
I don't think so, unless weather gets involved. Like if the Incarnate Word game for some reason is rainy and blowing, I think Nova could overpower them in the trenches. Incarnate Word's just one of those teams where the weather could adversely affect the way they try to ball. But I don't think there should be any surprises.
This one, I think, of the top 8 seeded teams, I think I've seen people pick UIW to lose the most. I think people just don't know how much to trust them, and I think they're thinking, Villanova or Eastern Kentucky could give them a run for their money. Like you said, though, I think as long as the weather is conducive to a passing game, I think UIW is fine. I think that offense is potent enough that they'll be able to keep up with anybody.
Yep.
I'm gonna agree with Brian Williams here. I'm taking Eastern Kentucky over Incarnate Word. I am. Again, Kevin talked me into it. So
I'm thinking, I don't know why I said Villanova when I picked Eastern Kentucky to beat them. I'm a very silly person. See, this is why I need to keep track of what I said. I still think Incarnate Word wins it. I think it'll probably be close, but I think Incarnate Word pulls it off anyways.
Yeah. He said I think in this matchup, Eastern Kentucky, he said Incarnate Word should be concerned if Eastern Kentucky wins against Villanova and heads down there. So he thinks that's a bad matchup for Word. But we'll see.
Interesting. I don't know. Maybe I'm biased because we saw him in person, but Zach.
Oh, you absolutely are.
And Jalen Waldhall, those two dudes are really, really good.
Yeah,
they are.
I mean, they're two of the best in the FCS, and when you've got dudes like that, they're tough to shut down. So,
yeah.
Anyway, what about Mercer? Are they going to take care of Rhode Island, or is Rhode Island going to pull off the upset?
Boy, this is the one. Mercer is the team that is, I think, more on upset alert than anybody else in the top 8 seeds, just because of how reliant they are on their defense. However, I think this is going to be a tight game. Just to pick, so I pick an upset in this round. See, this is how I do brackets. I don't pick games smart individually. I always feel the urge I have to have an upset. I'm going to pick Rhode Island to upset Mercer. Even though I deep in my heart, I don't think they will, but I'm going to pick Rhode Island to upset Mercer just because it'd be fun.
I'm picking Mercer. I have no idea why. I'm just picking Mercer.
You know why? You know why I think Mercer gets upset by Rhode Island? Because flippant NDSU always gets that to happen when they're
That's
about to
true.
face a seeded team. That team gets upset for no reason at all. So yeah, you know what? Rhode Island's absolutely going to win that game. So NDSU gets to face the 10 seed instead of the 7 seed in Fargo.
That's a great point.
I don't know that. I mean, they're going to be favored by just as much over Mercer as they would be over Rhode Island.
I know for sure. Yeah, that's absolute truth. But it always happens that way, and it's really weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then obviously, I think none of us are going to pick NDSU to lose.
Well, Rhode Island's on their backup QB, says Tim. I don't care. I'm committed. I can't back out of it now. He's got 2 weeks to get healthy.
All right, and then we've got
Shut up, Brad.
everybody had Montana State, and I'm pretty sure everybody had Idaho. Do we think anybody but Montana State's coming out of this top quadrant?
No, it's going to be Montana State.
Yeah.
It's not impossible. I would be surprised if Idaho won, though.
It'd be fun to see Eck pull something off, but
My buddy Dan Jackson has that Idaho defense ready to go to stop the run. I'm going Montana State.
I'll say you're
here's the
tempted
deal.
to pick him, aren't you?
He's my boy.
When we had Eck, we never won the big road game at the higher seed.
Yeah.
It's true.
Of that caliber. We beat some seeds, we upset seeds, but we never beat the 1-2. And let's be honest, I'm talking about NDSU. We never won that game. And this would be Idaho's version of NDSU in the Big Sky. And I don't see it happening.
I'm gonna clip that and send it to Eck.
Do it.
And they kind of pissed away the game last year against Albany too.
Yep.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, big time.
Yes, they did. Who we think between UC Davis and USD? I think it's going to be a really fun game to watch. I think USD. I think USD is a real deal. I think their defense is really, really, really good, and I think their offense does enough. I think it's interesting though. Their defense, they're really good. They just aren't consistent enough. And that's what scares me in a game like this against a good team in UC Davis. And NDSU, did they beat NDSU, or excuse me, USD? Did they beat NDSU? Yes, but man, there was some magic happened in that dome. They had the fourth down catch, the catch, the twirl catch on the sideline, the busted cover. I mean, there was a lot of things that went wrong for USD to beat NDSU in that one. So, and not to take anything away from them, like I already said, they're a really, really good team, and I think they have a good chance to beat UC Davis, especially at home. So I'll take USD.
USD just has a more multiple offense, and UC Davis is too reliant on one player that's not a quarterback to be able to pull the upset off in the dome. So USD is going to move on, and I bet USD ends up winning by 10 or so. I think it would have been a better matchup for Davis to face Montana State again, as opposed to one of the top 3 Valley schools that all have run defenses that you can't move the ball on.
Mm-hmm. And this Jordan right here points out UC Davis 57th ranked defense. Agreed. I'm taking USD in that one for sure.
All right. Is Incarnate Word or Eastern Kentucky apparently going to give us any trouble?
No.
This is the worst matchup Incarnate Word could have had on this bracket, I think, besides going to Montana State.
Yep.
I think they would have struggled there too. But basically, the moral of the story is Incarnate Word up north, outside is their death knell. I think they're going to struggle to fully operate their offense just from the weather.
Yeah, I don't see them throwing the ball around the field against us like they did before, especially with the weather, like you said. So, yeah, I'll take SDSU to move on.
Same. Yep.
Perfect. And then anybody but NDSU coming out of this quarter?
New.
Nope.
All right. So we've got, I think, a pretty consensus chalk here. We've got Montana State and USD and SDSU and NDSU, which, I mean, makes sense. I mean, when this whole year, we've kind of said the top four and then there's everybody else. And I think that it's most likely that it'll play out this way, where the semifinals are the top four teams, and it's going to be awesome. I mean, these are going to be two really, really good matchups to watch. What are your guys' thoughts on Montana State and USD?
I think Montana State's going to win. It's outside of the dome, and yes, I know USD played well in Brookings. That's a familiar environment. They still haven't had the most impressive road showings this year. A couple times, granted, we think they were looking ahead in those games. They still had several unimpressive road games, and it is arguable that of the home plate, the two home sites in this bracket left in the semis, Bozeman's the hardest one to win in. So I'm going to say Montana State wears them down. We've seen that you can run a little bit on NDS or on USD if you pound the ball repeatedly. SDSU got way over USD's average yards allowed in that game, and I think with Tommy Mellott fully unleashed, they're going to eventually wear out from him.
Mm-hmm. I'm picking USD. I think they're going to be able to run the ball on Montana State's defense from what I've watched on them, just with the backs that they have. I know Bowman's not a threat, but he's enough. He'll be able to pass the ball and keep him honest. I just think USD can really run the ball this year as well. So I think that's they have the advantage, in my opinion, versus Montana State's defense versus Montana State against USD's defense, if that makes any sense. But yeah, so and then that sets up a Frisco matchup where it's 80% blue in the stands. So yeah,
well, way to give away your pick for the next game.
Yeah, right.
Before we get into that game, I got to mention our last sponsor, Northwestern Mutual Sioux Falls, with Chris Schenkel. If you need financial advice or are looking to get set for your financial future, go talk to the guys at Northwestern Mutual with life insurance and financial planning and more. Go talk to them. They will take a weight off of your mind. They do a fantastic job there. They will treat you right. It's free to talk to them, and they can give you a good view of what your future is. If you don't have a real clear idea of that, I highly, highly recommend it. Whether it's good, bad, or ugly, it is worth looking into and knowing where you stand.
Before we move on from that matchup, I'll give my thoughts. I think that being up in Bozeman, unless it just happens to be really, really good weather, I think Montana State wins. I think it's a really tough place to play, like you said, and I think that getting USD out of the dome, I think Montana State takes that one.
It would this be really was in Vermilion. I think USD wins.
I could see that too. Yeah, I would agree with that. Yep. 100%. All right, and then we've got the big rematch, Dakota Market rematch up in Fargo. Obviously, we don't want the team looking ahead that far, but we can do that because we're just podcasters. So, my thoughts on this one: I like the way that the SDSU is looking, and with the defense playing like it has all year and even gotten better, and the offense, like we talked about earlier, has gotten better. I think we definitely have the team to go up in Fargo and beat NDSU. I think that their secondary is a little suspect, and I think that we'll be able to score some points on them. And I don't think that they'll be able to score enough points to keep up. So I'll take SDSU to go to Frisco.
I said at the beginning of the year when we made our preseason picks, I said it before the game, the marker game, that we would lose the regular season game and win in the playoffs. I still stand by that statement. Now, I do throw a little bit of caution to us SDSU fans just because we've looked fantastic over the last 4 games. Right. So did NDSU and USD against those teams. And then when we played, it was back to a slog offensively because of the caliber of defenses there, not because the offenses did anything awful. But I do think we are playing much better. I don't want to take that away either. The Jacks are starting to click. They are starting to play better. I just caution against falling in love with, and overhyping it when we've played teams that everybody else has looked really good against. But I do think we pull this one out in Fargo, slay the beast. It's amazing that there was only really 2 things left that Mark could do to slay the Dragons of. And they lined themselves up in the playoffs, getting Montana at home in the playoffs and getting to beat them in Brookings and return some of the favors that we've gotten over the last decade, having to go to Montana a couple times and lose there, and then being able to knock off the last thing on the list of winning a playoff game in Fargo. And if they play well, he'll have the opportunity to do both, which is pretty fun.
Yep, I'm picking SDSU. Pretty simple. Who said it? Garrett said it. We're playing better defense than we were before. We're playing better offense than we were before. And even if NDSU gets Cole Wisniewski back sometime here in the playoffs, it's been over a year since he's played. There's going to be some rust there. So,
right.
And he's still not 100% healthy or anywhere close to it sounds like. So, yeah.
Perfect. And then last but not least, we'd have a Frisco matchup. Brendan and I have SDSU versus versus Montana State. And Matt has SDSU versus USD, which would be a lot of fun. I'd be interested to see if it would even be 20% red. Honestly, I don't know. Maybe they would rile their fans up and get some fans down to Frisco, but
I think you'd see a ton of them down in Frisco, because for as much as we poke fun on them, they have shown the capability, like for their WNIT games and things like that, to show up similar to the way we do. I think it would be dominantly blue. There's no doubt about that. But I think there'd be slightly more than we expect. With as much fun as we poke at them, I think they would have a decent amount of fans show up.
All right, 30%. There we go.
Yeah.
I will take my matchup SDSU against Montana State. I think that our team is built to beat Montana State. I think that with our run defense the way it is and just the defense as a whole, I think that we can do enough to slow down Montana State, and I think SDSU wins their 3rd championship in a row.
Yeah, this is my preferred matchup. I don't want USD to make it just because, God, that would be so annoying. It would just annoy me if they made it. Their fans would be annoying. The media would be annoying. We know, and love Borg to death. He's come on, with me on the DGen show many, many times and said how much he would love if it was an all South Dakota championship, and the amount of flowers they've been getting already that are deserved still just makes my stomach turn. I'm sick of it. So I hope we play Montana State. That'd be a lot of fun down there. 2 great fan bases. And give me the Jacks in that game, just because I've said it every time we face a team that's really one-dimensional. You don't want to come in really heavy one way or the other against this Jacks team. And I think that the defense would be able to stand up to that pretty well.
Yeah, I'm picking the Jacks for all the reasons you guys have said. But I would like to see them down in Frisco, Brendan, just to rip their hearts out and, like, I don't know, watch them cry when the confetti flies. And that'd be great. Yeah,
I just don't want them to be able to say, yeah, we have a national championship appearance. I think semifinals is far enough. Actually, if I had my way, they'd lose the first round. That'd be fantastic.
I do enjoy that
They
they're
haven't
calling
earned it yet.
themselves the conference champions versus, co-conference champions. Like
Yeah.
like that. Settle down, Slappy. Yeah, but whatever.
Are they as unnaturally tall as SDSU fans? I don't notice height
I
a lot.
don't think so.
So just
No.
Uh,
All right.
but-
Well, we've gone almost an hour and 15. Thank you, Matt, for joining us. Really appreciate it. Everybody go get JI Italian nachos and order them that way, starting on December 2nd at
and
Cubby's.
Podfather shirts. I want to see a big run of Podfather shirts.
Order Podfather
Yeah.
shirts for sure.
They also have hoodies.
I love it. Perfect.
awesome. Thanks for having me, guys. This was really fun. So
Thanks for jumping on. It was a blast.
Awesome. As we always say, go big, go blue.
Go
Go
Jack.
Jack.